All right, so tonight's homework is on the different parts of a debate, what you'll see in the classroom in about 2 weeks' time when we actually start performing. So hopefully you're doing your whisk a little bit differently. Last night I kind of instructed you on what I wanted you to do, and hopefully you're kind of following the same concept tonight. I am hoping that you have a spiral ready to take notes on all of your homework, and then you will submit digitally your summary and questions so I can grade that separate. In class, I'm just going to go around like I did yesterday and stamp what you have finished or completed and make note of that and give you points for that. And then I can grade separately the summary and the question. This way it allows you guys to have all of the notes at your disposal at any time to help you in class or out of class. So again, in tonight's tutorial, you're going to learn about the different components of a debate in Honors Language Arts, which is going to be 3 main parts: opening statements, rebuttals, and closing statements. Anytime you see the pencil, please take notes just like normal. Okay. So in an opening statement, you need to have an intro, a body, and a conclusion. You need to try and think of some sort of slogan that's going to tie everything together. So similar to the speeches we watched in class, do you believe in me was a slogan. I have a dream, obviously Martin Luther King's famous speech. And then, what's that other one? Deontay Bridges was using an actual poem and quoting a poem throughout his entire speech. So if you can think of some sort of slogan, some sort of repetitive phrase that you're going to say as you give your opening statement, and then can also be repeated throughout the debate in the other sections, whether that be rebuttal or closing, that's going to help the audience remember you and remember your debate team. Please try to remember, we are going to vote a winner versus a loser, and the winner is going to get extra points, and you want that win. So a slogan is repetitive to the point where it's going to allow the audience to remember you and your team, and it's a good thing. Generally speaking, in opening statements, they should use the logic and expert reasoning for or types of arguments, and all of your facts and statistics should be represented in this part of the debate. You're going to give all your most important facts and statistics. Now, the other team is going to be writing down notes furiously, trying to get all of those facts and statistics written down so they can refute them during the rebuttal section. So this is the time when you give the audience, as well as the other team, any of your big important facts. You also need to really think about word choice during the opening statement. You need to have very persuasive word choice. If you can use quotes at all or any statistics from strong sources, you can create your own survey, but make sure you have good, strong support and that the other team's not going to call you out on it. If they do call you out on the survey, make sure that you have all of the information on your survey ready to back it up and to give them the information that they're asking for. You can also interview experts and provide that in the opening statement. So, you know, if you send off an email or something to an expert at a company and they give you back an answer, you know, use that in the actual opening statement and quote where that person is and what their credentials are so that the other team can't, again, call you on it. You want to prove that everything you're using in your opening statement is from a strong source, so don't forget that. As far as the length is concerned during the opening statement, it should be about 3 minutes. If it's not going to meet that 3-minute mark, it will not be considered proficient. So you definitely want to practice yourself and practice yourself more importantly with a timer. Get out your cell phone or something and time yourself as you walk through your entire opening statement and make sure you meet that mark. Know also that the other team will be allowed to offer rebuttals during your opening statement, which will add to your time, but sometimes the other team won't do that. So don't count on that to help increase the actual opening statement, because what would happen if you're planning to have a 2.5-minute speech and you're hoping they're going to do a rebuttal and the other team doesn't? You're kind of screwed at that point. So don't count on the other team. Try to get to 3 minutes and know that they have the potential to interrupt you and add to your time, but make sure you get to that 3 minutes. The strongest speaker of your debate team generally should deliver this part of the debate because it's the longest speaking component, and the person that does this needs to have the motivation to practice and to give a really confident opening statement. And the way you have that confidence is by practicing, which we'll talk about in another piece, another homework video. All groups also are required to have a PowerPoint during the opening statement. So as the opening statement and closing statement is being written, the people that are in charge of rebuttals or giving rebuttals for their team, they're going to have the added pressure of creating the PowerPoint for you guys. This is going to encourage all of you to communicate as a group, because it's not fair for one person, the opening statement person, for instance, to have to put together a huge long speech and the other people to not know what's going on. So you need to be able to communicate, share your facts and statistics, share your slogan ideas, and make sure all of that is kind of interconnected to the opening statement, to the rebuttal, to the PowerPoint presentation. I'm kind of forcing you guys to really work together here. Okay, so the rebuttal section. The rebuttal section is the point where you really need to have some critical thinking skills and be quick on your feet. This is the firing back and forth, the actual arguing from one side of the debate to the other. I'm going to give you 15 minutes for this section, and of course those people that are doing the opening and closing statement, they don't have to do rebuttals, but often this is the most important or fun part, so everyone on the team can do the rebuttal section. However, those people that are not doing the opening or closing, in order for you to meet a proficient score, you have to at least stand up and talk 3 separate times. So please keep that in mind. As far as the organization of a clear rebuttal, there is a 4-step process, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. You need to always remember to relate it back to your topic. Don't ramble on and get lost, because your audience will just get confused. So you must bring it back to your side of the debate. You need to follow the 4 steps. I'm going to be paying attention to that. And if your rebuttal doesn't make any sense, you're not going to get a point for it. You need to be a quick thinker, like I said, so if the other team pops up and says something, you need to be able to write down a quick rebuttal. I also would recommend coming to the debate with pre-made rebuttals ready to go. Those are going to actually sound the best and show that you are prepared for whatever the other side might potentially be arguing. You can bring up new topics that way too, to keep the rebuttal section going. You need to do this. The rebuttal is only allowed during the opening statement for the other team and during the rebuttal section. So if you are a member of the rebuttal side of that debate team, you have to get your 3 rebuttals or more in during either the other team's opening statement or that 15-minute rebuttal section. Once we close the rebuttal section and go to closing statements, you are not allowed to do any more rebuttals. So you've got to get them done. As far as the scoring is considered, like I said, you need to follow the 4-step process, and you need to do at least 3 to be considered proficient. And try really hard not to ramble and get lost on your topic. Bring it back to your side, remember your slogan, and remind the audience that you're in control and confident about your topic. Okay, so the 4 steps to the rebuttal are: step number 1, they say. This is where you're going to repeat what the other team just said during their opening statement. You should really try practicing shortening the quote from the other team. You don't have to quote them word for word, kind of paraphrase what they say. Then you go into step number 2, the but. This is your transition word. It could be something other than but. It could be like however, for example. You clearly state your counter argument here. But I disagree because fill in the blank. And I got all the way into step number 3 there, your because statement. This is where your reasoning comes in. So this is where you support your counter argument by giving a criticism of the opponent's ideas or just basically bashing down what they just said. Final is the therefore. Step number 4 is therefore, where you're comparing your opinion to the other team and defeating their side and proving why yours is wrong, right. So this is a really critical skill for debate. Oftentimes, if you don't get to step 4 and do it nice and cleanly, you will completely lose your audience and your score for me. So it needs to be really better reasoned, better evidenced. It needs to be more important or have more experience. These are all the things that you need to call out against the other team. You're right because you have way more research and support on your side. Or you're right, therefore you're right because your topic, the idea of school uniforms, for example, is the idea of banning school uniforms is more important to students at Neil Armstrong than the idea of having uniforms. You know, just calling them out and proving why you are better reasoned than they are. So again, the 4-step rebuttal process is they say, but, because, and therefore. I think as long as you can remember those concepts and remember that not only are you quoting the other team, you're offering a counter argument, you're giving your reasoning, and you're explaining why you are better than they are and bringing it back to your topic. You should be fine for that 4-step rebuttal as long as you remember those pieces. All right. Moving on to the closing statement. So as far as the closing statement is concerned, you do need an intro, a body, and a conclusion, but it can be a lot shorter than the opening statement. If your team used a slogan in the opening, you should repeat it here. Really, communication is going to be the key between the speaker of the opening and the speaker of the closing. Repeat any of your most important facts and statistics from the opening, but don't introduce anything new. This is the last that the audience is going to hear from your team, so you don't need to bombard them with new information. There are also no rebuttals allowed in this section, like I mentioned previously. The argument used for closing statement is much more emotional. You want to make an emotional connection with your audience. This is the last, like I said, that your audience will hear from you, so you really need to make it count. And then as far as the length, it should be at about 1 to 2 minutes in length. I think if you're not needing 1.5, 2 minutes, I'm not going to consider you proficient. But know that the closing statement is a lot shorter than the opening. I would also like to state that you're not required to have a PowerPoint presentation or a Prezi or whatever for the closing, but sometimes it really can add to your emotional connection with the audience. For example, I had a student or a debate team arguing about banning the sale of cigarettes. And for their closing statement and emotional connection, they showed a lot of people suffering from cancer effects from smoking, which were pretty gruesome and kind of horrifying pictures that really got the audience engaged. Now, when I say emotional argument, I'm not necessarily saying that you have to make the audience cry. It could be anything that gets them interested and engaged. So while you're not required to have a PowerPoint for the closing, sometimes it really can help you with that emotional connection with the audience. Okay. We're finished for tonight. So bring your notes to class tomorrow for credit and I will check them. Don't forget to submit your question and your summary in the whisk below. And if you need to go back and access any of these slides without watching the video, they are listed right below the video as well. Okay, I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget to ask questions or message me on Edmodo or here on sophia.org if you have any more questions, and I'll see you tomorrow.